Welcome to Spurs Focus, your go-to spot for daily Tottenham news, transfers, and match updates. Don't forget to support the channel by hitting that subscribe button now. Let's dive into today's top story. Thomas Frank's side could be without three key players: James Maddison, Dejan Kulusevski, and Kota Takai. Add to that the uncertainty around Radu Dragusin's recovery, and Spurs' preparations suddenly look shaky. With West Ham fresh off a big 3-0 win, and Graham Potter enjoying fewer injury concerns, Saturday's clash at the London Stadium promises to be a true test of Spurs' depth and resilience. Tottenham Hotspur could be missing three crucial players for the upcoming showdown with West Ham United. Thomas Frank's side travel to the London Stadium on Saturday afternoon and will be aiming to return to winning ways following the defeat to Bournemouth before the international break. And they might have to do it without a host of key members of their squad. Playmaker James Maddison remains restricted to the sidelines following his long-term knee injury. Meanwhile, Sweden international Dejan Kulusevski is not expected to return to action anytime soon. The pair join young defender Kota Takai in being ruled out. Meanwhile, Sweden international Dejan Kulusevski is not expected to return to action anytime soon. The pair join young defender Kota Takai in being ruled out. And while Radu Dragusin remains out of contention for the clash with West Ham at least, Spurs have, however, received positive news regarding his fitness. The defender has returned to training following his cruciate ligament injury. It might be some time before he returns to the pitch, but to see him back in training is an encouraging sign. Fellow defender Christian Romero has also given Frank a boost, having returned from international duty unscathed. He was ruled out of Argentina's second game of the window due to suspension, meaning he was eligible to return earlier than expected. Elsewhere, Yves Bissouma and Dominic Solanke could also be back in the fold for Tottenham following their injury issues. From the West Ham side of things, Graham Potter has far less headaches when it comes to getting an 11 together. The Hammers only have 3 injury doubts ahead of the game at the time of writing. German forward Niklas Füllkrug is out due to a calf strain. He is expected to be recovering for a fortnight. Meanwhile, George Earthy could potentially return to contention after recovering from an ankle problem. Brazilian winger Luis Guilherme is also a doubt, having picked up a collarbone issue during pre-season. West Ham will certainly be keen to have as many players available as possible, as Graham Potter's side aim to make it back-to-back Premier League wins. They downed Nottingham Forest 3-0 before the international break to secure their first victory of the campaign. Spurs, in the meantime, are aiming to return to winning ways following their defeat at the hands of Bournemouth earlier this month. Following the clash with West Ham, Spurs get their Champions League campaign underway, having been drawn to take on Villarreal in their opening game. Tottenham fans, all eyes are on Dominic Solanke this weekend. After weeks of ankle troubles and missing crucial games, the 27-year-old striker could finally be in line for his first Premier League start against West Ham. With Richarlison battling fatigue from international duty, the door might just open for Solanke to prove himself in Spurs colours. Could this be the breakthrough moment fans have been waiting for? Dominic Solanke will be hoping to make his first Tottenham start of the new Premier League campaign against West Ham United this weekend, having been plagued by an ankle injury since pre-season. After missing 5 friendlies, Solanke returned off the bench in Spurs' UEFA Super Cup final defeat to Paris Saint-Germain, with 2 substitute cameos against Burnley and Manchester City. Following that, the form of Richarlison has kept him out of the starting ointment, but it also looks as though injury is preventing him from playing more minutes with the Englishman, absent from the matchday squad to face his former club Bournemouth prior to the international break. He has got a minor issue with his ankle, Thomas Frank revealed. That's been a little bit grumbling also in the pre-season. It's just too much for this game, and now we have international break, so hopefully he can be ready after that. Solanke posted a photo of himself in the Hotspur Way gym just a few days later, with it clear he is eager to get back involved. If he deemed fit to return, that could even come from the start, with Richarlison potentially a late returner from international duty after playing for Brazil in the early hours of Wednesday morning. Carlo Ancelotti's side were beaten in a World Cup qualifier away at Bolivia, with conditions far from ideal for those visiting their 23,000 capacity stadium, as it is at an altitude of 4,088 metres above sea level. Oxygen masks are often needed for those that play at such altitudes, with Neymar previously describing the conditions as inhuman. With Richarlison playing just over an hour from the off, he may not have physically recovered to start Spurs' trip to West Ham on Saturday evening. That could see Solanke included in the starting in Sodaimai, even if he only plays 45 to 60 minutes. The 27-year-old appears to be keen on featuring after posting a photo of him in action for Spurs to his Instagram story. Alternatively, Frank could hand deadline day signing Randal Kolo Muani his debut. After joining on a season-long loan from Paris Saint-Germain, Kolo Muani has spent the last 10 days training under Frank and with some of his new teammates. Frank also looks set for dilemmas elsewhere, with Destiny Udogie and Jed Spence competing for the left-back spot. The latter has just made his England debut and been very impressive in Tottenham's 4 competitive games. Elsewhere, Lucas Bergvall will be pushing to start in midfield after mixed displays by Rodrigo Bentancur and João Palhinha last time. Xavi Simons is expected to make his debut further forward, as Spurs do not have another attacking midfielder available. Harry Kane's Bayern Munich chapter may already be on borrowed time. Despite lighting up the Bundesliga with goals and assists, reports suggest Bayern are braced for his early exit, and the England captain himself hasn't ruled out a sensational Premier League return. Could we be heading towards one of the biggest comeback stories in football? Harry Kane has previously left the door open to a return to the Premier League. The 32-year-old striker, who left Tottenham Hotspur to join Bayern Munich in July 2023 for £86.4 million, €100 million, has recently been linked with a move back to the English top flight. Kane, whose contract at the Allianz Arena expires in June 2027, has featured twice in the Bundesliga this season, scoring 3 goals and providing 2 assists. Playing a key role in Vincent Kompany's side, he's helped the reigning champions get off to the perfect start. Despite the England international's impressive performances, Bayern looked to sign a new forward in the summer. The Bavarians set their sights on Nick Woltermaid, but he went to Newcastle United, so they signed Nicholas Jackson on loan instead. Kane also only has 2 years left on his contract, leading some to believe that the German giants will cash in while they still have the chance. Speaking to TalkSport, as quoted by The Express, German football journalist Raphael Honigstein revealed that Bayern are braced for the Englishman's departure. The German football expert said it's no big secret that people in Germany don't expect Harry Kane to see out his career at Bayern. I think Bayern are braced for the possibility that he will leave slightly earlier than his contract, which runs until 2027. One way or the other, he and the club need to take a view on this fairly soon. They were pushing for somebody who can both be a backup and an understudy for Kane. They looked at Benjamin Sesko, they looked at Nick Woltermaid, they ended up with Jackson, with an obligation to buy. This suggests Bayern are aware of the possibility that Kane might go in a year or two. Honigstein added, but at the same time, he's so good that anyone who comes in has to play around him. There is absolutely no chance that Jackson will displace Kane. He will have to play alongside him, ahead of him, or give Kane a rest in a game or two. But he is very much there to be his eventual successor, but we are still quite far off that. Kane didn't rule out a move back to the Premier League when he was quizzed on his future earlier this year. Speaking to ESPN in April 2025, the former Spurs captain said, "I'm not sure. I've said throughout my whole career, I'm not someone who likes to think too far ahead. I'm extremely happy here. I think we have a fantastic team, fantastic coaching staff, and I just feel like whilst I feel like I'm in the best condition, I want to play at the highest level possible. And this is as high as it gets, so I know a lot can change in football in a short space of time and things can happen, but ultimately my focus is here. I'm not thinking about any other league or any other team. And with football, I like to just go with the flow. And at the moment, the flow is here at Bayern Munich," added Kane. "I think when you're just playing in the biggest games every season, year after year, I think that puts you on that stage. I had moments at Spurs where we had that. We had some really great years where we were challenging for titles and were in the final of the Champions League. So I had those moments at Spurs, but not on a consistent basis. It wasn't year after year. Spurs fans, there's light at the end of the tunnel. After months on the sidelines, defender Radu Dragusin is finally back in training, edging closer to a long-awaited return. But he's not the only one. Thomas Frank has provided fresh updates on Bissouma, Kulusevski, Maddison and Solanke. as Tottenham prepare for a crucial clash with Tottenham defender Radu Dragusin, has moved one step closer to a first-team return. The Romania international hasn't played since January, when he suffered an ACL injury against Elfsborg in the Europa League. One step closer. Radu's back in training, Spurs' official account posted on social media. The post was accompanied by a video of the centre-back lacing up his boots and running out onto the training ground, where he was put through his paces. Thomas Frank is expected to have Dragusin available before the turn of the year. However, there was no place for him in the squad for the Champions League's league phase, with Frank also leaving out summer signing Mathys Tel as one of a number of tough decisions. Despite being unavailable to play, he joined his teammates in Bilbao for the Europa League final and travelled to Udine for the Super Cup. Dragusin played 28 times last season, with 15 of those appearances coming in the Premier League, but recognised the injury has forced him into a bit of a reset. I think it really changed the way I see everything in football. He told Club Media in early August. It was my first injury, so it was a big change. I had to learn to live with it, train with it, but I think it changed me in a good way. It gave me another perspective of how I view everything in football. I had to learn how to walk again. I was on crutches, my knee was really stiff from the surgery. It was a long process, but once I got back to normal walking, it became a positive journey. Dragusin isn't the only Spurs player on the comeback trail though. Here, Football.London has the latest for you ahead of Saturday's trip to West Ham. Bissouma has yet to feature in the league this season, and is another Spurs player who won't be able to take part in the Champions League league phase. However, Frank indicated before the Bournemouth game that he might not be too far from a return. He's out for the next game, Frank said, referring to the defeat against the Cherries. I don't have a specific timeline for him, but I don't think it will be that long. Possible return date: West Ham, September 13th. Dragusin's return to training is good news, but he's unlikely to be rushed back into action. With Christian Romero, Mickey van der Ven and Kevin Danso all available this term, there is no need to bring his schedule forward. That means we shouldn't expect to see him for Saturday's game against West Ham. Spurs may even decide to wait until after the October international break, if they remain well stocked. Possible return date: October. Kulusevski looks set to be out for a little longer. He was also left out of the European squad, having not yet recovered from the patella injury, which kept him out of the Europa League final last term. Kulusevski is out. It's a longer one. I don't want to put a time frame on it, Frank told reporters before the win away at Manchester City. The Sweden star has linked up with his international colleagues during the September break, but manager Jon Dahl Tomasson made it clear that wasn't with a view to a surprise return to action. Dejan Kulusevski will be part of the group. He won't be able to play, but he will be there anyway, Tomasson said, per Fotbollskanalen. That says something about his character. He's doing everything he can to get us to the World Cup. He wants to help the team. He will be with the team throughout the entire campaign. Maddison will miss the majority of the season after suffering an ACL injury in a pre-season game against Newcastle. However, he has shared a photo on Instagram showing the progress of his rehab so far. Lowest low I've ever had, the England international wrote in August after undergoing surgery. Heartbroken at the fact this injury has occurred at this time in my career. With the Super Cup tomorrow, the Premier League season on the horizon, the exciting Champions League campaign, and it being a World Cup year for England, it all feels very, very cruel. But nevertheless, the ACL reconstruction surgery was successful. Possible return date: unknown Solanke came off the bench for each of Spurs' first 2 league games, also playing in the Super Cup final and scoring in the penalty shootout. He missed the match against former club Bournemouth though, with Frank issuing an update. He's got a minor issue with his ankle, the manager explained. That's been a little bit grumbling also in the pre-season. It's just too much for this game, and now we have the international break, so hopefully he can be ready after that, Frank added. The expectation is that Solanke will be assessed before Saturday's game,